Elizabeth and Jessica are planning a surprise anniversary party for their parents. Mom and Dad have been married 16 years. Stephen is 15. 15 years plus 10 months of pregnancy. Was Mrs. Wakefield pregnant when she got married?
Argo Font Book Review. Argo Font Book Review.
Mom and Dad both forgot about their anniversary because they've been busy lately. Jessica is worried because people who love each other don't forget things like that. Also, Mom has a handsome new client. She's clearly planning to leave Dad and run away with a rich Arab. Jessica saw it in a movie once, so she figures it must be true. Number 1, this sounds stupid. Number 2, I am never going to trust Jessica as a love expert. I've seen what her future love life is like. In the subplot, Elizabeth and her friends do a love-themed history project. They interview their parents to learn how they first met. Amy's parents met when they were stuck on a Ferris wheel for an hour. Pamela's parents met at the hospital when she was injured at sports. Elizabeth hopes her parents will have a romantic story. Dinner that night is pizza, which is cooked and delivered in under 5 minutes. Impossible! Elizabeth tries interviewing her parents about how they first met, but Dad is too busy watching sports to pay attention, and Mom is too tired to talk. They won't talk about how they fell in love! Does this mean their relationship is over? No, they're just tired tonight. You have been tired before, right, Elizabeth? I don't know, it's weird how Elizabeth is the smart, incredibly compassionate one, unless the plot demands that she's stupid and can't understand anything. It turns out that Mom's new client is the incredibly rich Frank Howard. The kids decide to scare Frank away from Mom by acting awful. They dress up in terrible clothes and play loud music. When Mom invites Frank to have salad, Jessica makes disgusting salad dressing for him, and he almost chokes to death. Jessica follows Mom and Frank, and as the cover shows, she freaks out when he buys an engagement ring. I have no idea why Frank brought his interior decorator along when he bought an engagement ring. That was a weird decision on his part. Jessica also freaks out when she overhears Frank make a lovey-dovey phone call. Jessica comes up with a plan to scare Frank away for good. She gets a group of kids to pretend to be Mom's children from previous marriages. They run wild and misbehave in front of Frank. But they give themselves away when they start giggling over how silly they're acting. Of course, it turns out Frank is not trying to seduce Mrs. Wakefield. He's engaged to someone else. Mom decides not to do her interior decorating job full-time, thereby rewarding Jessica for her wild jealousy, lies, and schemes, which will assuredly poison her ability to develop real relationships when she's older. Also, Mom tells Elizabeth that she met Dad at a restaurant. Mom was a waitress who accidentally spilled food all over Dad. I guess when Dad was young, he was a big fan of hot chicks who gave him free food. The end. Post-book follow-up. Good, this is one of the harmless sitcom-style books. That means it's predictable and based on forced misunderstandings. But I don't care. I'd much rather read Jessica's silly sitcom plots than see Jessica scheme to completely destroy someone else's life. That said, this book was too predictable. Jessica makes 3 schemes to scare away Frank. Scheme 1 is misbehave, Scheme 2 is misbehave, Scheme 3 is misbehave. It's the same basic thing 3 times, which is boring. They should have tried something different for one of the schemes, like, I don't know, tell Frank that Mom is pregnant. The twins' worry about Mom scenes were all near identical, as were the Jessica spies on Mom scenes. It's like the author wrote out 3 basic scenes, then ran them on repeat until the book was over. It makes the book feel boring and stretched out. I wasn't interested in Jessica's schemes, so I found Elizabeth's subplot to be the most interesting part of the book. That said, Elizabeth's subplot finishes in the first half of the book. They probably should have given her a different subplot, or found a way to keep her subplot going, just to break up Jessica's repeating 3-scene cycle. I give Sweet Valley Twins number 24, Jumping to Conclusions, a 3 out of 10.